Good evening and welcome. Tonight, we're journeying to the Byzantine Empire at the height of its medieval power, to the great city of Constantinople in the year 1025 AD. We'll be following the life of a tax collector, perhaps one of the most despised yet absolutely essential positions in the empire. Before we begin, get comfortable, settle in, and let's step into a world of meticulous record-keeping, endless calculations, and the complex bureaucracy that kept an empire functioning for over 1,000 years. Your name is Nikephoros Doukas, and you are a practor, a tax collector in the service of the Byzantine Empire. You're 42 years old, educated, literate in both Greek and Latin, and skilled in the complex art of imperial administration. You serve in the theme of Thracian, a military district in western Anatolia, though you maintain a residence in Constantinople itself, the greatest city in the Christian world. It's early January, the beginning of the tax year, and you're preparing for months of travel through your assigned district. The work of a Byzantine tax collector is not simple. It requires literacy, numeracy, knowledge of law, ability to assess property values, skill in negotiation, and most importantly, the ability to deal with people who universally despise you. Because everyone hates the tax collector, even though everyone understands that taxes are necessary for the empire to function. You wake in your modest house in Constantinople, in a neighborhood of middling officials and prosperous merchants. Your home is comfortable, 2 stories, with a small courtyard, plastered walls decorated with simple frescoes, tile floors, and glazed windows. It's not wealthy by the standards of Constantinople's aristocracy, but it's far better than what most people have. Your position pays well, though the work is demanding and often unpleasant. Your wife, Theodora, is already awake, supervising the household slaves. You own 3, which marks you as solidly middle class: a cook, a household servant, and a young boy who runs errands. Slavery in Byzantium is different from what it would become in later centuries. Slaves have certain legal protections, can own property, and can purchase their freedom. Still, they're slaves, bound to your household. Breakfast is simple but adequate. Bread dipped in wine, some cheese, dried figs, and olives. The Byzantines eat lightly in the morning, saving their appetite for the main meal in the afternoon. You eat while reviewing your documents for the journey ahead. These documents are crucial. Tax rolls listing every property owner in your district, assessment records showing what each property should produce, notes from previous year's collections, and official correspondence from the imperial bureaucracy in Constantinople. The Byzantine tax system is extraordinarily complex, the product of centuries of development dating back to Roman times. There are land taxes, head taxes, trade taxes, inheritance taxes, taxes on specific commodities, special levies for military expenses, and numerous other charges. Your job is to collect all of these, accurately record what's collected, deliver the money and goods to imperial warehouses, and maintain detailed records of everything. You spend the morning making final preparations. Your travel chest contains clean clothes, writing materials, papyrus, parchment, ink, pens, your official seal, letters of authority from the provincial governor, and a small amount of money for expenses. You also have a bodyguard, a retired soldier named Constantine, who will travel with you. Tax collectors carry valuable goods and money, making them targets for bandits. Constantine is experienced, well armed, and importantly, literate enough to serve as a witness to transactions. Your wife embraces you at the door. These journeys last for months, and it's unclear when exactly you'll return. Be safe, she says quietly. Come home. God willing, you reply, making the sign of the cross. Everything in Byzantine life is framed by Christianity. The empire sees itself as the earthly reflection of the heavenly kingdom, with the emperor as God's representative on earth. Your work collecting taxes isn't just administrative. It's a sacred duty, providing the resources the Christian empire needs to defend itself against the infidel and maintain true religion. You and Constantine leave through the Theodosian walls, the massive fortifications that protect Constantinople. The city is enormous. Perhaps 500,000 people live here, making it the largest city in Europe. The streets are crowded even in early morning. Merchants, officials, soldiers, priests, artisans, laborers, all moving through the city's complicated network of streets and alleyways. Outside the walls, you take the military road that leads east toward Anatolia. The road is well maintained. Byzantine roads aren't as grand as the ancient Roman highways, but they're still functional. You travel by horse, with a pack mule carrying your supplies. Constantine rides alongside, watchful. Bandits are a constant concern, especially in the more remote areas. The journey to your district takes several days. You pass through small towns and villages, spending nights at monasteries or small inns. Monasteries are obligated to provide hospitality to travelers, especially imperial officials, and they generally have better accommodations than inns. Finally, you reach Philomelian, a mid-sized town that serves as the administrative center for your portion of the theme. Your first stop is to present yourself to the local strategos, the military governor of the theme. Byzantine administration combines military and civil authority. The strategos commands troops and administers justice, while officials like you handle the financial side. The strategos receives you formally in the town's government building. He's a military man, gruff and direct, but he understands the importance of tax collection. His soldiers need to be paid, after all, and payment comes from the taxes you collect. The harvest was adequate last year, he tells you, but several villages were raided by Arabs in the autumn. You'll need to make adjustments to their assessments. You nod, making notes. This is a constant challenge. Assessments are based on what land should produce in normal circumstances, but circumstances are rarely normal. Drought, flood, raids, disease, all affect productivity. Part of your job is to make reasonable adjustments while still collecting as much as possible. You set up your working headquarters in a room provided by the local church. The church is intimately involved in imperial administration, providing space, record-keeping assistance, and moral authority. The local bishop is an important figure, and you make sure to pay him proper respect. Now, the real work begins. You send word to the villages under your jurisdiction that the practor has arrived and will begin assessments. Over the next weeks and months, you'll visit each village, verify property ownership, assess productivity, calculate taxes due, and collect payment. Your first village is a small community of perhaps 30 families, their houses clustered around a small church. The village collectively owns some land, but most is divided into individual plots. Your arrival is greeted with resignation. Everyone knows why you're here. The village elders meet you at the church. These are the important men of the community, the priest, the largest landowners, the respected elders. They're polite but wary. You represent imperial authority, and while they're loyal subjects of the emperor, they also know you're here to take their money and produce. You begin by verifying the tax rolls. Each property owner is listed, with their land described in detail: location, size, type of soil, what crops it produces. This information was compiled years ago during the last major census. But things change. People die. Land is inherited or sold. Productivity changes. Georgios Komnenos, you read from the roll, owns 3 modioi of irrigated land near the river, 2 modioi of dry land on the hillside, 1/4 share in the village mill. The village elder nods. Georgios died last winter. His widow and sons work the land now. You make a note. Ownership has changed, but the land hasn't, so the assessment remains the same. The widow and sons will owe the same taxes Georgios did. You proceed through the entire roll, verifying each entry, noting changes, asking questions. This takes hours. The villagers watch, some anxious, others resigned. Everyone's trying to calculate how much they'll owe. Next comes the assessment of productivity. You walk through the village lands with the elders, examining fields, checking irrigation systems, noting the quality of crops. This requires genuine expertise. You need to understand agriculture, weather patterns, soil quality, crop yields. You've been doing this for 20 years, and you've developed a good eye. A field of wheat that should produce 10 modioi per modian of land. A vineyard that looks healthy and well tended. An olive grove that had a good year. Each observation goes into your notes, building a picture of the village's total productivity. Now comes the delicate part, calculating what's owed. The basic land tax is fixed based on the assessment, but there are numerous additions and adjustments: military levies, road maintenance fees, charges for public works, special imperial taxes for military campaigns. You work through each calculation carefully, writing everything down. The total for the village comes to 150 gold nomismata worth of taxes, payable partly in coin and partly in kind: wheat, barley, wine, olive oil, wool. You announce the figure to the assembled villagers. There's grumbling, as there always is. It's too much. One elder complains. We had drought last summer. The harvest wasn't as good as you say. This is expected. Everyone claims hardship. Your job is to distinguish genuine hardship from standard complaints. You ask detailed questions about the drought. When did it happen? Which fields were affected? How much was the yield reduced? The answers are vague, contradictory. You conclude the drought wasn't as severe as claimed. The assessment stands, you say firmly, but not unkindly. Payment is due by the end of March. There's more grumbling, but also acceptance. The tax burden is high, but not impossibly so. The village can pay, though it will be difficult. That's the balance you're trying to strike. Collect as much as possible without destroying the village's ability to function. You move on to the next village and then the next. Each one follows a similar pattern. Verify the rolls, assess productivity, calculate taxes, deliver the news, deal with complaints. Some villages are more prosperous than others. Some have genuine hardships that require reduced assessments. Some try to hide wealth, and you must use your experience to detect deception. In one village, the largest landowner claims his vineyards produced poorly last year, but you notice new construction on his house, expensive clothes on his family, signs of prosperity that don't match his claims of hardship. You press him, asking detailed questions, examining his fields carefully. Eventually, he admits the harvest was actually quite good. You increase his assessment accordingly. This is a constant game. Taxpayers trying to minimize what they owe. You trying to extract what the empire needs. It requires diplomacy, firmness, and careful judgment. Push too hard, and you create genuine hardship or even rebellion. Push too little, and you fail in your duty to the empire. Weeks pass. You move from village to village, staying in local churches or in the homes of village elders. The work is repetitive, but requires constant attention. Each village is different. Each has its own circumstances. Each requires individual assessment. You're not just collecting money, you're also collecting taxes in kind. Grain, wine, oil, wool, leather, timber, all the products the empire needs for its military and administration. These goods must be collected, stored in imperial warehouses, and eventually transported to Constantinople or to military outposts. This logistical aspect is enormously complex. You must arrange for storage, hire wagons for transport, ensure goods are properly measured and recorded, prevent theft and spoilage. A significant portion of your time is spent on these practical matters. By late March, you've visited perhaps 20 villages. You've collected thousands of numismata in coin and vast quantities of goods. Now comes the dangerous part, transporting all of this to the regional treasury in Philomelian. You arrange for a convoy, several wagons loaded with goods, guarded by soldiers borrowed from the strategos. Tax convoys are prime targets for bandits, and you're not taking chances. Constantine and a dozen soldiers escort the convoy as it makes its way along the roads. The journey is tense. You're constantly alert for ambush. Several times you spot suspicious groups watching from hillsides, but they don't attack. The military escort is enough to deter them. You arrive at Philomelian without incident, though exhausted from stress. At the treasury, you oversee the unloading and counting of everything. Each item must be measured, weighed, and recorded. Treasury officials check your figures, comparing them to the tax rolls. Everything must match. Discrepancies mean lengthy investigations and potential accusations of theft or corruption. The process takes days. You're present for all of it, watching as your months of work are verified and recorded. Finally, the treasury officials are satisfied. They issue you a receipt, confirming that you've delivered the required taxes. This receipt is crucial. It's your proof that you've fulfilled your duties. But you're not done. The tax year continues. There are more villages to visit, more assessments to make, more collections to organize. And there are also the special imperial levies that come throughout the year. In May, word arrives from Constantinople. The emperor is preparing a military campaign against the Arabs, and a special tax is being levied to fund it. You receive new instructions, new tax rolls, new calculations. You must return to all the villages you've already visited and collect additional taxes. This is deeply unpopular. The villagers have already paid their annual taxes, and now you're back asking for more. The emperor needs resources to defend the empire. You explain repeatedly. Would you rather pay taxes or be conquered by infidels? The argument is effective because it's true. The Byzantine Empire faces constant military threats. Arabs to the east and south, Bulgars to the north, various other enemies on all sides. The military consumes enormous resources, and those resources must come from taxation. Still, extracting additional money from villages that have already been taxed is difficult. Some genuinely don't have more to give. You must make hard decisions about what to collect and what to forgive. Some villages you let off with reduced payments. Others you push harder, knowing they have hidden reserves. In one village, the elders flatly refuse to pay the additional levy. "We've already given everything we can," they say. "There's nothing more." This is a crisis. Refusal to pay taxes is rebellion, a serious crime. You could call in soldiers to enforce collection, but that would create lasting resentment and could even spark wider resistance. Instead, you negotiate. You reduce the levy slightly and arrange for payment in installments. The village agrees. Crisis averted. Summer arrives, bringing different challenges. The heat makes travel uncomfortable. Some villages have problems with their harvests. Drought in some areas, too much rain in others. You must assess each situation, determining what's genuine hardship and what's excuse. You also deal with corruption. In one town, the local tax collector, your subordinate, has been taking bribes to reduce assessments. You discover this through careful examination of the records and reports from villagers. The amounts don't match what the land should produce. Confronting corruption is dangerous. The corrupt official has friends and connections, but you have imperial authority on your side. You gather evidence, document everything, and present the case to the strategos. The official is arrested, tried, and punished, flogged and dismissed from service. It's a warning to others, and it reinforces your own reputation for honesty. Autumn brings the harvest season, and with it, the collection of taxes paid in kind. You're back in the villages, watching as grain is threshed, grapes are pressed, olives are harvested. You must be present to ensure the correct portion goes to the imperial warehouses. This is tedious work. Standing in fields, watching farmers work, counting sacks of grain, measuring amphorae of wine and oil. The villagers resent your presence. It's a reminder that they don't fully own the fruits of their labor. A portion always belongs to the emperor. But this is how empires function. The Roman Empire survived for over 1,000 years, partly because of sophisticated tax systems that extracted resources efficiently while avoiding total exploitation of taxpayers. The Byzantine Empire inherited and refined these systems. By December, as the year ends, you're exhausted. You've traveled thousands of miles, visited hundreds of villages, collected vast amounts of money and goods, dealt with countless complaints and crises, faced danger from bandits and disease, lived rough in small villages and churches. You return to Constantinople with the final tax convoy of the year. The city is preparing for Christmas, the streets decorated, churches holding special services. You deliver your final receipts to the central treasury, a massive building near the imperial palace where the empire's wealth is stored and accounted. Senior officials review your work. They examine your records, compare them to the official rolls, check for discrepancies. Your reputation depends on these reviews. Officials who consistently collect their assigned taxes with minimal complaints are promoted. Those who fail are demoted or dismissed. Your review is positive. You've collected 98% of the assessed taxes in your district, a good rate. Some losses are always expected: deaths, genuine hardships, uncollectible debts. Perfect collection is impossible, but you've done well. You're awarded a bonus, 50 numismata, a significant sum. More importantly, You're praised by the chief financial minister. This means your position is secure, and you might be considered for promotion. You return home to your house, to Theodora and your family. Your daughter, who you haven't seen in months, has grown. Your son, training to be a notary, shows you his improving handwriting. These are the moments that make the months of difficult travel worthwhile. Winter in Constantinople is relatively mild, but it's still cold. You spend the short days reviewing the year's accounts, making notes for next year, attending church services. The Byzantine calendar is full of religious observances, and you're expected to participate. This isn't just social obligation. You're genuinely pious, as most Byzantines are. The empire's identity is inseparable from Orthodox Christianity. You also attend social gatherings with other officials, trading stories, and information. These networks are important for career advancement. You learn about positions opening in other themes, about policy changes being discussed in the palace, about factional politics among the aristocracy. The Byzantine bureaucracy is enormous and complex. There are dozens of different departments, hundreds of types of officials, elaborate hierarchies and protocols. Understanding how to navigate this system is as important as doing your actual job well. January arrives again, beginning a new tax year. You receive your assignment for the coming year, the same district, which is good. You know the area now, know the villages and their circumstances, have established relationships with local officials and village elders. This makes the work easier. You prepare for another journey, another year of travel and tax collection. Theodora helps you pack, her face showing both resignation and worry. This is your life. Months away from home, dealing with hostile taxpayers, facing dangers, all in service to the empire. Why do you do this? She asks, not for the first time. You could take a position in Constantinople, work in an office, come home every night. It's a fair question. Office positions in Constantinople are safer and more comfortable, but they're also less lucrative and offer fewer opportunities for advancement. As a field tax collector, you earn more and have more chances to distinguish yourself. I serve the empire, you say, which is true, but not the whole truth. You also serve your own ambition, your desire to provide well for your family, to rise in status and wealth. These motivations aren't contradictory in Byzantine society. Serving the empire and advancing yourself are seen as compatible goals. Years pass in this pattern. Each year brings a new cycle of travel, assessment, collection, and return. You grow older, more experienced, more skilled at your work. Your district changes as you learn its rhythms, its patterns, its people. Some years are easier than others. Good harvests make collection simple. Villagers pay without excessive complaint. Bad years are harder. Drought, plague, raids all reduce productivity and make collection difficult. You must balance imperial demands against practical reality. You also witness the empire's slow changes. The military situation deteriorates. Arab raids become more frequent. The empire, once aggressively expansionist under strong emperors, becomes more defensive. This affects your work. More military levies, more special taxes, more pressure to extract resources for defense. You also see social changes. Great aristocratic families accumulate more land, creating large estates that displace small farmers. These estates are harder to tax. Wealthy aristocrats have influence and connections to avoid full taxation. Meanwhile, small farmers, squeezed between taxes and aristocratic pressure struggle increasingly. This troubles you. The empire's strength has always rested on small free farmers who pay taxes and serve as soldiers. As these farmers are displaced or impoverished, both tax revenues and military recruitment suffer. You report these concerns up the chain, but change is slow or non-existent. By your late 50s, you're recognized as one of the most experienced tax collectors in the empire. You're promoted to a supervisory position, overseeing several praetors in different themes. Your travel reduces. Now you spend more time in Constantinople, reviewing reports, training new collectors, advising on policy. This is prestigious, but less exciting. You miss the fieldwork in a way, miss the direct contact with the empire's reality. Office work in Constantinople feels abstract, disconnected from the actual villages and farmers whose taxes fund everything. You also become more aware of the corruption and inefficiency in the system. The Byzantine bureaucracy, for all its sophistication, is also incredibly complex and prone to corruption. Officials take bribes, falsify records, skim from tax revenues. Enforcement is difficult. The bureaucracy investigates itself, and everyone has friends and connections. You remain honest, partly from principle and partly from calculation. Your reputation for honesty is valuable, distinguishing you from corrupt colleagues. But you also understand that perfect honesty is rare and somewhat naive. Small gifts, minor favors, these are expected parts of Byzantine administration. The line between appropriate gifts and improper bribes is often blurry. By age 60, you're ready to retire. You've served the empire for nearly 40 years, collected millions of numismata in taxes, helped fund countless military campaigns, maintained the administrative apparatus that kept the empire functioning. Your reward is a comfortable retirement pension and the satisfaction of duty fulfilled. You spend your final years in Constantinople, watching the empire slowly change. The great Emperor Basil II, who ruled when you were young, has long since died. His successors are less capable. The empire faces increasing pressures from all sides, but the bureaucracy continues, collecting taxes, maintaining records, keeping the machinery running even as the overall structure weakens. You die peacefully in your sleep at age 68, surrounded by family. Your funeral is well attended. You are a respected official, known for honesty and competence. You're buried in a church cemetery, your grave marked with a simple stone bearing your name and date. Your legacy is not grand monuments or famous deeds. It's thousands of properly maintained records, decades of taxes efficiently collected, training provided to younger officials who will continue the work. You are a small but essential part of the vast machinery that kept the Byzantine Empire functioning. The empire itself will endure for another 4 centuries after your death, finally falling to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. But even in its final centuries, it will maintain sophisticated bureaucracy and tax systems rooted in traditions you helped uphold. The praetors will continue traveling to villages, assessing land, collecting taxes, maintaining the records that make organized government possible. This was the reality of Byzantine administration, not the court intrigues and theological disputes that dominate historical accounts, but the patient work of thousands of officials like yourself, doing unglamorous but essential work, year after year, generation after generation. The empire survived as long as it did, partly because of people like you. functionaries who kept the system running even as emperors changed and external threats mounted. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, think about the unsung workers of history. Not the emperors and generals, but the tax collectors and scribes, the officials and clerks whose patient labor made civilization possible. Their names are mostly forgotten, their work seems mundane, but without them, empires could not function, armies could not march, and the elaborate structures of organized society would collapse. Rest now, knowing that every complex society depends on people willing to do difficult, unpopular, but necessary work. The Byzantine Empire was magnificent in many ways, but its magnificence rested on foundations of careful record-keeping, honest administration, and officials who served faithfully even when the work was tedious and the appreciation scarce. Sleep well, and dream perhaps of ancient roads, careful ledgers, and the patient work of keeping civilizations running. Good night.